He was a loving father by day and a killer by night. By all appearances, Thomas Keller was the kind of man every small town admired. A devoted husband, a proud father, a man who coached Little League on weekends and volunteered at the church every Sunday. To his neighbors in Maplewood, he was the picture of kindness, soft-spoken, generous, always smiling. But beneath that calm exterior was a darkness so deep, even his own family never saw it coming, until his daughter did. It began in the summer of 2014. Thomas lived with his wife, Margaret, and their 16-year-old daughter, Emily, in a quiet cul-de-sac just outside town. They were a family that seemed to have it all: a nice home, a loyal dog, and a father who made everyone feel safe. But Maplewood wasn't as peaceful as it seemed. For months, the town had been gripped by fear, a string of disappearances, all women in their 20s, vanishing without a trace. No witnesses, no suspects, no pattern. The media called him the Shadow Man, police called it a nightmare with no face. And Emily Keller had no idea that nightmare was living under her roof. Thomas worked as a night shift security guard at a local shipping warehouse. He often told his family his job was boring: long nights, empty corridors, endless coffee. So, when he came home at dawn, exhausted and distant, no one questioned it. But there were signs, tiny cracks in the mask, a strange box he kept locked in the garage, late night drives even on his days off, and a coldness in his eyes that sometimes surfaced and then vanished just as quickly. Margaret brushed it off as stress. Emily, still a teenager, didn't think much of it until one evening changed everything. That night, Emily was scrolling through news reports about the missing women. One article had just been updated with a newly released photograph, a smiling young woman named Kayla Monroe. Emily froze. She knew that face. Kayla wasn't just another stranger from the news. She was one of her father's co-workers from the warehouse. She'd met her once, months before, when she dropped off dinner for him during his shift. Emily remembered how friendly Kayla had been, and how quickly her father had ushered her away. Now Kayla was gone. Emily's stomach turned. She told herself it couldn't be true. Her father would never hurt anyone. But something inside her whispered otherwise. That night, while Thomas slept, she crept into the garage. The locked box, the one he always kept hidden, sat on the workbench. The key was on his keychain, hanging from the wall. Her hands shook as she opened it. Inside were photographs, hundreds of them. Women, smiling, laughing, unaware, each one dated and labeled in his handwriting. Kayla's picture was on top, and beneath the photos was something worse. Small trinkets, necklaces, earrings, bracelets, things that didn't belong to anyone in their family. Souvenirs. Emily's mind spiraled. Every image, every missing woman's name, every late night trip suddenly made sense. Her father, the man who taught her to ride a bike, who tucked her in at night, was the monster the whole town feared. Tears streamed down her face as she realized she was holding evidence of murder. She wanted to scream, but she didn't. Instead, she grabbed one of the photos, Kayla's, and ran to her room. She called the police, and in a quiet, trembling voice, she said the words no one ever expects to say. "I think my dad is a shadow man." Detectives arrived before dawn. They surrounded the house as Thomas prepared to leave for work. At first he laughed, thought it was a mistake. But when they showed him the contents of the box, his expression changed. Gone was the kind, gentle father. In his place stood a man stripped of all masks, cold, empty, unrecognizable. The evidence was overwhelming. DNA from multiple victims, items linked to 6 unsolved disappearances, and security footage from the warehouse showing him leaving during his shifts, the same nights each woman vanished. When confronted, Thomas didn't deny it. He simply said, "I just wanted to see if anyone would notice." In his twisted confession, Thomas admitted to killing 7 women over a span of 3 years. He claimed he was putting them out of their misery, that he was drawn to women who seemed unhappy or lost. Investigators later said he showed no remorse. But the most haunting part of his statement was what he said about his daughter. "She was never supposed to find out. She was the only good thing I ever did right." Emily's testimony helped convict him. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. To this day, she refuses to visit him. She later told a reporter, "I used to think monsters hid in the dark. I didn't know they could live in the same house, eat at the same table, and tell you they love you." The Keller case shattered Maplewood's sense of safety. Neighbors who once adored Thomas avoided even saying his name. And Emily, the daughter who exposed her father, became a symbol of courage in the face of horror. Evil doesn't always wear a mask. Sometimes it smiles. Sometimes it calls itself Dad. If the story chilled you to your core, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because we share real stories that remind us that the scariest monsters often look just like us. Stay safe. And remember, sometimes the truth is closer than you think.